Well, Congressman Hunter has not publicly said if he will resign his seat before he's sentenced in March. But if he does, what will that mean? Would a special election be needed to fill his seat heading into an election year? Here now to talk more about this is political analyst John Dadian. We have been talking all kinds of good inside baseball. The whole country really is talking about this seat and what happened today and yesterday, the big announcement here on KUSI. So let's talk about what does this mean? The San Diego Union Tribune is reporting that prosecutors expect him to resign soon. So what will that mean? The governor has 14 days to call an election? How does this work?
Once it's vacant, and so that's what the key is, what date he actually resigns. Governor cannot do anything until there's actually a vacancy. And there's a very complicated formula about when the governor calls it. Now, clearly he's going to try to call it to help the Democratic candidate, but he doesn't have that much of a window. So we're waiting to see. I heard a soundbite today by Hunter Sr. that basically alluded that it would be next week. And if that happened, there would be a special election. Okay,
so resignation is not part of the plea deal. This is on his own terms right now. So I ask you, were you surprised by this turn of events? You said, no, I called it.
I did call it a couple of weeks ago because we're looming this week. We're looking at Friday at 5 p.m. It's the normal cutoff to file for office. And so if he would have filed for office before Friday, his name would have been on the ballot. Now, since his name's not on the ballot, the filing extends a little bit to next week. But I think the field that you see is pretty much set.
Okay, so for his name to not be on the ballot, does that help Republicans? Does that increase their likelihood of keeping that seat? Because now the Democrats, maybe were they holding out hope that this cloud would be over Congressman Hunter and maybe they could squeak in there?
That's exactly what's going on. It increases it dramatically because, again, with the registration, California has what they call, some people call the jungle primary. It's the top two. So whoever the top two are of any party could be two Republicans, but most people think with several Republicans in it that Campanajaro, the main Democrat, will get in one of the slots, and that means one of the Republicans, one of the top two Republicans will get in. I think because of registration, I think any of the Republicans can defeat the Democratic candidate in the general.
Does this hurt Campanajaro for Hunter to resign? Because it gives more elbow room, right?
Well, it hurts tremendously because it not only gives him more elbow room, but it takes away his main issue. You know, he's going to say, look, in the general, if it was the Democrat against the incumbent Republican who was under indictment or getting ready for trial, he could say, look, I need to bring back integrity to the district. Now it cuts that away. The three main Republicans, each of them have different pros and cons, different strengths and weaknesses, but their strengths, each of them are very strong. So that's why I think it's going to stay in Republican hands.
You think all of this was a strategy today about moving on into the election season, right?
Again, because it would have hung over the head of even the criminal process if his name would have been on the ballot. Now, does that mean were they going to ask him to officially resign or whatever? Now that's just basically taken off the table. I just think it makes it a little bit more clearer.
Okay, so let's say he resigns, resignation is official one day next week, then the governor has 14 days. How's that going to shake out?
Well, here's the interesting thing, and this has happened in San Diego before. Well, depending on the timeline, again, we really don't know, but here's what possibly could happen. There could be a special primary, a regular primary, a special general, and a regular general all within 6 months.
So it's still the same people that are put on the ballot for these elections?
Not necessarily, and that's a great question. And the answer is, again, right now at 5 p.m. Friday, that will be whoever files, that'll be the people that are on the regular primary. But if the governor calls for a special and it's not consolidated, which it could or couldn't be, but if he calls for a special, that's a new race. So anybody can file. Now, yes, we're expecting the same people to file, but somebody new could file that didn't file for the regular.
And you said earlier that you would expect the governor to do something to help the Democratic candidate. What would have to happen to help that person out?
As far as the timeline, as far as maybe setting the dates where maybe somebody in an office in another elective office wouldn't be able to file because of a conflict or whatever. There are very, very fine minutiae that you could look at.
So potentially there could be 4 elections for voting days for this one seat.
It happened in San Diego about, I'm showing my age, about 15, 20 years ago. Somebody ran for the assembly, won the first 3 races, became an elected official, raised his hand, took oath, started voting, but he lost the big one, the full 2-year term. And so that person's one of the shortest members of the California State Assembly. So it absolutely could have happened.
Now, on those polls, you know, the nationwide polls, and they put the red and blue for each seat, and it'll say leaning Democrat, leaning Republican. When Congressman Hunter made his announcement on KUSI yesterday, those red and blues went from leaning Republican for his seat to strongly Republican. So it really did help the Republicans.
Oh, absolutely. I think I don't think there's any question about that, without doubt. As I said, the three main Republicans were, let's say, Darrell Issa, Carl DeMaio, and Brian Jones, all solid for different reasons. Brian's a current elected official that overlaps the district. Darrell's a former congressman. Carl DeMaio is extremely well known in the area. So absolutely, any of these Republicans, you're looking at your next member of Congress.
Darrell Issa, Carl DeMaio have a lot of money behind them, but Brian Jones, Mr. East County.
And I think those are different. One huge aspect that Darrell Issa has, again, another quirk in the law, is that he was in Congress for 18 years. If he goes back and part of the freshman class of 2020 with other freshmen across the country, he gets his seniority back. And what that means is plum committee assignments, possibly even a chairmanship.
I have one more question for you. Will
Certainly.
Congressman Hunter remain a congressman after Friday?
Probably after Friday, probably not after a week from Friday.
Okay.
How's that for a little vague answer?
After sentencing, and once he steps down, that's it.
Well, I think he, again, based on a comment made by his father, I think he will resign before sentencing. Sentencing now is scheduled third week of March, and I think the possibility is that he'll resign as early as next week.
If he were to wait till he's sentenced, would they just have to grab it out of his hands?
No, they can't do that. So he can stay in basically as long as he wants until his current term ends, technically.
Okay, so there's still a lot more to shake out with this.
A lot of moving parts.
Okay, Mr. Dadian, you are so good. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.